Somewhere around a year ago, I played this game for the first time. Played about 2 or 3 times, and I really, really liked it. But I couldn't get a copy. It was out of print. You couldn't get it anywhere. Well, finally, the second edition of this game is out now. And I got a copy, and we've been playing it. And, well, I love World War II games. And this one is a really good one. So let's check out Black Orchestra.
In Black Orchestra, the players take the roles of historically based conspirators plotting together to assassinate Adolf Hitler. Assassinating Hitler is done by collecting and working towards satisfying plot cards. Each plot card has a specific set of requirements, like being in the same location as Hitler. You also have optional elements to each plot, like collecting weapons, poison, explosives to aid in the assassination. The majority of the game is working together to build the best assassination plot and attempting the plot at the right moment. While doing that, there are 3 major tracks that the players need to manage. First is the conspirator's motivation track. This is important because you must be committed to even attempt an assassination plot. The track indicating Hitler's military strength is how difficult the plot will be to pull off. This level indicates the number of successes you need to roll to actually assassinate Hitler. And the last track you need to manage is your conspirator's suspicion. Again, the higher the suspicion, the harder it will be to pull off an assassination plot. And if you're in the extreme level of suspicion, the Gestapo will arrest you during a raid. On your turn, you have actions to spend to move around Europe, revealing and picking up items that can either be delivered to cities to lower your suspicion or to keep them to use in assassination plots. You can also take actions to draw cards from the conspirator deck, which gives you cool things you can play at the right moment. Each turn, the players draw and resolve event cards, causing all sorts of things to happen. Hitler and his goons will move around the board, making it difficult to predict where they'll be from round to round. If players start their turns in the same space as Hitler or one of his deputies, you have to discard items or cards or lose motivation, all sorts of things. When you're in the same space as Hitler and you have all your plot ducks in a row, you can make an assassination attempt. Each requirement and optional element satisfied on the card adds dice to your pool. Then you roll all your dice. If the number of eagle symbols meets or exceeds the number indicated by your suspicion level, you fail and are sent to prison. But if you made it past those eagle symbols and the number of target symbols meets or exceeds Hitler's military strength, you did it! You changed history forever, and Hitler is dead.
Now let me start off by saying that though I like cooperative games, they're definitely not my favorite style of game. And it really takes a special kind of game for me to want to come back over and over and over and continue playing it. And Black Orchestra by far has done that for me. I might even go as far as to say that Black Orchestra is my favorite co-op I've ever played. I mean, I just adore this game for so many different reasons. The first reason, and I think the most important reason for me, is that more so than any other cooperative game, I feel like there's like an intense level of collaboration going on at the table. And not only does that make it fun as a social experience, it also is very thematic as well. It really does feel like you are one of 3 or 4 or whatever number of players, collaborators, conspirators, sitting in a room somewhere in a basement with a map of Europe in front of you, and you're coordinating how you're going to assassinate Hitler. And even the physical act of what you're doing at the table feels like you're in the game doing it for real. It brings out all of these, my imagination goes wild, really, when I'm playing this game. It's just so gorgeous. When I say this intense level of collaboration, it's just because there's so many little nuances to the game that always need to be paid attention to. You know, you're trying to get those plot cards and you're trying to satisfy a bunch of different requirements on those plot cards, and you're trying to manage all of the different problems that are arising and the things to get all your ducks in a row so that you can make that plot happen. So you're trying really hard to find the right plot. Which one of these plots are we going to do? And which one's going to be our main plot? And which ones are going to be our backups when our main plot goes down the tubes, as they inevitably will? And in addition to that, once you figure that out, you go, okay, where on the board are we going to get all these items that are going to give us the best possibility for results with this one? Who's going to get the items? Who's going to manage Hitler's military support and get that low so that we can have a better chance of winning? And who is going to be collecting cards and who's going to be playing cards to get cards out of the discard pile? And when we got a time when it's exactly right, because if the Gestapo raids come up, we might lose some of those things that we really need to make this thing happen. There's just so many elements that have to fall into place with this, and you're working so hard to make them happen. And thematically, the game is great because it feels like there's this oppressive force, this giant machine. The Nazis are in Europe and they're rolling. And you're this small group of people that are trying to fight against this giant thing or circumvent its problems, right? So it just feels like there's this oppressive force on you all the time and you can't stop it. You can't stop what's happening. And you just got to work around it. So in a lot of cooperative games kind of have that, but this one just has a different vibe to it that makes it so very thematic. And throughout history, all of these different assassination attempts, this is based on history, all of these things actually happened, and they all failed. All of these assassination attempts failed. Hitler managed to just get away at the last second, or something happened and the circumstances weren't right. And that's what makes this game cool, is because you feel that in the game. You feel like you got all your ducks in a row. This is perfect. We're going to make this happen. We only got 2 more turns to go until we're going to make that plan happen. And inevitably, somewhere in those 2 turns, some monkey wrench comes flying in to the works, causing some kind of problem. You scramble to try to fix it, put a Band-Aid on it so you can make that plan happen. We're going to Band-Aid it. We're going to wait a whole nother round. Hopefully nothing else happens, which inevitably will. It's just great. It feels like you never have complete control, but you have just enough control so that you feel like you can actually do it. But it's really hard to make it happen. I love it. And thematically, it's amazing. All of this stuff is so thematic. And I keep coming back to theme because the mechanics really are what the theme is about. I mean, of course, there's all of the history and the event cards that have historical events that really happened, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how the mechanics feel thematic to what you're doing in this game. There's a lineup of 7 decks of event cards, and that kind of represents the different stages of the war. And in the beginning of the game, Hitler's kind of chilling around, Berlin and the surrounding areas, and you know where he is all the time. And if you could get all that stuff together real fast, you could get him there. You could get him. But there just isn't enough of the items and the cards out yet for you to be able to really put together a good plan. And the more time you spend trying to get those, the more the Nazis expand throughout Europe, meaning Hitler's going to be moving around even further away from Berlin. And a lot of times it's hard to wrangle him and get him back to where you need him. So the game balances giving you more to do, but having less control over how you can get the plan together. So wonderful. And the game just ramps. It ramps in stress, and it ramps in excitement and difficulty. It's just terrific. Now, I did mention history. We played the game with a history buff, a guy who's really into World War II, reads a lot of books about World War II, knows all these stories. And as we were playing the game, he was picking out things from the cards and different things that were happening. He was like, wow, this is a real story and he told us the story, and it was just a little bit more information than what was on the cards. And it was so cool that this guy was so excited about the game. And the rest of us, we knew some of this stuff, but not in as great a detail, but it was still fun for us. You don't need the historical thematics for the game to be fun, but when you do know those things, it just enhances that fun even more. And I think the one big problem with the game has to do with that historical aspect, that thematic aspect. When you look at a game like Pandemic has a very generic theme. It's a map of the world, and there's cities that have diseases in them. And there's no story to the game. Well, in this game, there really is a story. It's about a story. It's the story of World War II, and you're just kind of playing in it. So when you're playing this game and you eventually defeat Hitler, you actually kill Hitler, the story ends, and you've completed the story. So it kind of sometimes might make you feel like, well, I've already told that story. I don't need to do it again. I think the game itself transcends that. I think if you get over that kind of feeling of the theme, you'll have fun playing this game multiple times. I mean, because there's variability, you can put the tokens all over the place. They're always randomized, and the cards kind of shuffle, and some of the cards are out of the game sometimes, and you have different roles that you can play with different abilities. So I think the game has just as much variability as a lot of games like Pandemic do. But that theme, that story that's told might be the only part that might stick in your brain that I'm not sure I want to play that story anymore. For me, I'll gladly play this game all the time. I just love it. I think this is going to be one that comes out pretty regularly when we're looking for a good cooperative game, because the graphic design is great, the artwork is great, the theme with the artwork and the photography that they use and everything is just amazing, and the gameplay is off the charts. I just love this game with that little teeny bit of replayability issue there. Otherwise, check out Black Orchestra. I really, really like it. Well, thanks so much for joining me here today for my review of Black Orchestra. If you enjoy board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, why don't you check out our audio podcast, the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. You can find it on iTunes or at thesecretcabal.com. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.